Now, there's no reason to feel ashamed. I didn't know what it was either until about 2022, but it's actually pretty interesting. Let's start with the lowdown. CTRail, formerly known as just Connecticut Commuter Rail, is a state-owned agency for managing public rail services in my home state of Connecticut. Since they're a division of ConnDOT, they receive funding and whatnot directly from the state. Now you may be thinking, isn't Metro North also backed by Connecticut? And doesn't it go to Connecticut too? Well, yes actually. The New Haven line is a joint partnership between ConnDOT and the MTA. That's actually why you see the Connecticut state seal on their trains. The system contains two major routes, Shoreline East and the Hartford line. There's also the Waterbury and Danbury branches, but those are operated by Metro North. More on the two in the next section. Was that a CTRail locomotive on Metro North? I think that deserves a little further explanation. It would be a stretch to say that seeing a piece of Connecticut property on Metro North is rare. For example, if you've ever been on or saw a diesel Metro North train east of the Hudson, you know they actually use these, shoreliners. However, you may not know this, but the different colored stripes on these cars actually mean something. A blue stripe indicates that the car is owned by the MTA, while a red car indicates ownership by ConnDOT. This motif also continues into their multiple units, whereas cars with a red paint scheme are allocated to the New Haven line, and blue to the Harlem and Hudson lines. CTRail is also known to loan equipment to Metro North, as seen in previous shots. If you go out to any diesel service, while you're more likely to find a P32 or SC42, it's not entirely out of the question to see a BL20 or a GP40 in Connecticut livery. If I could positively and negatively describe Shoreline East in one word each, it would be stunning, yet abysmal. I could look at these views all day, but my god is the service just terrible. I'm pretty sure Amtrak runs more frequently. Shoreline East is a commuter rail service that runs the approximately 45-mile stretch from New Haven to New London along the Northeast Corridor, with occasional through service to Stamford. It uses entirely Kawasaki M8s for its fleet. However, before 2022, it was ran with diesel trains, namely P40DCs, GP40s, and cars. Since the P40s released from Amtrak, it led to some interesting-looking consists. They also ran SPV 2000s for a few years, but were sacked in 2006 by the McPhersons. The story of the line starts as usual with Amtrak being broke, and cutting off their service somewhere, and the locals being indifferent until a few years later. Its origin story is actually quite similar to that of CTRail in Florida's. I-95 was being heavily backed up due to ongoing road work, and they needed a temporary bandage to get people out of their cars, but still to their destinations. The line was instated from New Haven to Old Saybrook in 1986 by then-Governor William O'Neill, and cancellation of the service was debated a few years later, but apparently it was doing its job too well, and got to stick around, while also evading millions and compensating laborers from terminating the service, and also preventing more than 30 tons of vehicle pollution from being emitted in the year of 1991. In this 1996 document, we can see the current form of Shoreline East start to form. The second recommendation of the Connecticut Rail Service Task Force was to extend to New London to tap into potential ridership, while at the footer of the document we can see a small recommendation to integrate it with a potential service to Hartford. Now, doesn't that seem a little familiar? This document also states that GIFPAPA. All this bickering ultimately ended in victory for Shoreline East, as in 1996, the line, now with 18% more ridership, was extended to New London. As for the line's future, there isn't really much to discuss here. The only major plan for the line is to extend it to Westerly, Rhode Island via Mystic. And even with that large extension, it would still not connect with MBTA commuter rail. Anyways, this past Tuesday, I actually went to go get footage of the line, and I just wanted to put some of the footage that I got while on the way up from Bridgeport, because it's just a very beautiful line, you know. Anyways, roll the clip! The Hartford Line, formerly known as just the New Haven-Hartford-Springfield Rail Project, is a 62-mile commuter rail line that connects the cities of Springfield— wait, shit, that's the wrong photo. Springfield and New Haven via Windsor Locks, Hartford, and Wallingford, among other cities. By the way, I'm sorry for sounding so deadpan in that clip. I'm absolutely not re-recording it though. Before Shoreline East's electrification, CTRail had a pool of rolling stock that both lines drew from. On CTRail's end, the fleet consists of the usual suspects: P40s, Mafersas, and GP40s. However, from 2017 up until 2022, they leased semi-retired BTC/CTC3 coaches from the MBTA, manufactured by Messerschmitt Bulka Blum, which just so happen to manufacture aircraft as their main business. And I don't know about you, but I'm starting to see a bit of a pattern here. Taking a look at the newer side of things, Condot is actually in the process of purchasing new Odessia coaches from Alstom, with expected delivery sometime in 2026. As of me writing this, there is a mock-up of the interior of these cars sitting in a metal box at New Haven Union Station, which I visited on the 30th of December to get footage. Christopher from Condot was also there, and he pointed out some things about the cars, so I'll let him take it from here.
So there are bike racks on the existing cars, but there'll be twice as many on the new cars. We tested different models of bike racks. This is the one we thought was the best.
Yeah, these are similar to the ones they have on the M8s.
That's right. So this is a mock-up, but it is a model of what will be in the car. Passenger information displays that show the next station and all kinds of other useful information. There'll be 4 tables per car, and 2 and 2 seating, no middle seats. Seats are a bit upgraded from what we have now. And the wide aisle will make it possible for full-size wheelchairs to go the length of the car.
Thank you, Christopher, but less about the fleet, more about the history. Let's get right into it. The Hartford Line got its start in a pretty similar way to Shoreline East, which was of course Amtrak completely screwing over their customer base, which makes me shudder at night. This came in the form of removing 25 miles of track to convert the line into a single-track line due to high operating costs and lower ridership than expected. Many feasibility studies were conducted by the state from 1994 to 2005, however it wasn't until 2010 when we saw some actual action. Obama's Recovery Act was actually able to net the project $40 million, with another $120 million coming later that year. After some bickering, the government was also able to borrow an extra $260 million. After everything was said and done and the dust was settled, the project ended up costing roughly $769 million. The line began double tracking and stations were rebuilt all the way from New Haven to Hartford from 2015 to 2018, and during those years, Amtrak actually bustituted their current Hartford shuttle service. When everything was said and done, service started on June 16, 2018. But how are they going to deal with Amtrak's existing service? Are they just going to keep it alongside the new Hartford Line service? Well, yes, actually, and that's actually not confusing at all. Alright, that should be good. Wait, does anybody smell that? You heard it here. As it stands, the Hartford Line is operated by 2 companies. Condot contracts their side out to a joint venture between Herzog Transit Services, formerly known as Transit America, and Alternate Concepts Inc., the same company that will operate the Maryland Purple Line. Amtrak, on the other hand, operates their side of things independently, using their own equipment. It should also be noted that as of right now, Amtrak's Hartford shuttle services are one of the only places that you will find a Metroliner cab car guaranteed, as they have one at the end of each consist. One of the main points of confusion of this scheme is the fact that Amtrak doesn't cross-honor CTRail tickets on all trains. Even though usually you can board a CTRail train with an Amtrak ticket just fine, if you try and board a crowded Amtrak Hartford Line shuttle or an Amtrak Vermonter train, that probably won't end well for you.
I hope you like pain!
Overall, the Hartford Line works just enough to act as somewhat of an artificial backbone for Connecticut along the I-91 corridor. However, its schedule's kinda limited to being just an artificial backbone instead of a viable replacement for car travel. Even though public transit is heavily incentivized here, the lack of a frequent schedule makes it so that people have to live around that schedule, and that turns away a lot of potential riders. Quick addendum, as I edit this, it's come out that apparently ConnDOT is planning to pull its M8s from Shoreline East, because apparently we don't own the wires past New Haven and Amtrak is charging exorbitant prices for power, and it'd somehow be cheaper to bring back the deals we got rid of to save money in the first place. There is a board meeting soon, so here you can pause and do your own research to see if that was evaded. Back to the video. And that just about covers all that I'm able to cover. While the original scope of this video included the history of CTRail/Connecticut Commuter Rail as an entity itself, I was unable to find sufficient resources to actually make anything useful about that. I did also attempt to contact the state and somebody from the state, however, that ultimately proved to be fruitless. So that's pretty much all that I can give you today. I leave you with an apology for taking so long to get off my ass and actually finish this video, and also a thank you for watching. See you in the next one.